Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alina from Creative Field Designs, and in today's video we will be lettering on pumpkins. It's a lot of fun. I really hope you enjoy it, so make yourself a nice cup of tea and let's get started. I'm really excited about today's project. So you can see I have lots of these little pumpkins on my desk here. So these are the ones I've lettered on already. So I just want to show you what we're going to achieve in this little project. So you can either use a real pumpkin like this. So these are fairly small. I just bought them in Sainsbury's. If you're in the UK, they still might be available. So I haven't done anything to this one. I've just lettered straight onto it with a black pen. Or this little squash, for example, is just really cute. It's also fairly small, so you don't have to letter very big. I'll also show you how to prepare and prime your pumpkin, so you can do different colors, like this one in gold. It just looks really pretty. You can also just choose to do your stem in gold, which also looks really good. You might choose to go for a ceramic pumpkin, and that's okay. So this one's fairly big. You can get different sizes in Hobbycraft, although I know they do sell out really quickly for Halloween, so it's good to get yours early. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a few different techniques, and I just want you to know that this project isn't much about a technique of lettering, but it's all about just knowing what materials to use. And once you have your tools figured out, it'll be so much easier to get creative. So to begin with, I'll just guide you through the materials we'll be using today. So obviously we need a pumpkin, so that's the most important thing. So with regards to pens, I highly recommend using some of these acrylic based pens. So you can either go for Posca pens in different colors, so these are really good, but I've recently just got a bit bored of these, so I thought I'll try something new, and I came across these acrylic paint marker. I found these on Amazon and I just love how thin they are. I know you can get Posca pens with a fine tip as well. So I just really like also the color of gold, how yellow it is. It just looks really nice and shiny. So at the moment I'm really obsessed with these. Again, they come under different names, but I'll just add the link for you so you can have a look on Amazon. Another one of my favorites is this Sharpie Oil-Based Pen. So this is really good. It's waterproof, it doesn't smudge, it looks really good on surfaces like mirrors, pumpkins, ceramics. Yeah, it's really great. I highly recommend this. Another thing we'll need is some sort of a paint, and I highly recommend using acrylics on surfaces like pumpkins, for example, and ceramics. So this just works really well. They come again under different brands. I've got some here in pink that's from Hobbycraft, which is great, and some of these ones. I love the gold one in particular. So choose the color you like. You don't have to paint on your pumpkin. You can just leave it orange, or if yours is white, black will always look good. It's a classic combination. But if you did want to prime your pumpkin, or let's say its surface is really rough, or let's say the color of your squash, for example, is a bit dark, so if you lettered on this, it wouldn't be very visible, very contrasting. So let's say you wanted to paint this in white and do the stem in gold, so that's possible, and it does look really pretty when it's painted. It just sort of adds a bit of a smooth surface, a bit of shine, so you can see it sort of covers a few imperfections as well. So I do highly recommend painting your pumpkins. And to paint, obviously, the bigger your pumpkin, the bigger brush you want to use. This one's really big, it's just something I use to paint my house. So basically we'll just use that to cover the whole surface of a pumpkin, and you can use something smaller for details. So let's say if we want to do our stems in gold, so we can just use a smaller brush for a bit of detail, or also it's sometimes fun just to add a few strokes on your pumpkin, just brush strokes. It looks quite nice, especially in gold. And I just have a pot of water here because I will dilute this paint a little bit. You don't have to, for example, this one is quite thin. It doesn't need much water at all, but some of them are a bit thick, so I like adding a few drops of water. Okay, so let's begin. I'll just show you a few techniques, and I'm just going to start by painting my pumpkin because it takes a bit of time to dry. So yeah, I'm just going to use my brush and paint this pumpkin in this white acrylic color. I'm just going to squeeze some in here. I'm going to take my big brush. I'm going to add a bit of water. Not much at all, just sort of mix it around a little bit to prepare. I'm going to leave the bottom area because I'm going to dry it and then do it separately. So I'm just going to focus on the top right now. I'm going to leave the stem area because I wanted to do it in gold. So while we wait for our pumpkins to dry, which can take a while, we can use this time to practice a few phrases that you would like to letter on your pumpkins. For this project, we'll mainly be doing faux calligraphy because we are not actually using brush tip pens. So the tip of this brush is very thin, which means we'll need to add those thicker calligraphy strokes manually. So I'll just show you a few sort of pretty slowly so you can see how I'm doing it and have a go yourself, and then I'll just show you some of the phrases that I love lettering on pumpkins that you might enjoy as well. Let's do something simple first. Make sure that your pen is ready to go. You might need to give it a shake, you might need to press down a few times so the ink starts flowing through. So I'm just going to use this black pen, and the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to letter Trick and Treat in just a stylized calligraphy style without focusing on downstrokes at all. Just making it very bouncy. Making sure that I have quite a lot of spacing between my letters. I'm going to do the word or just sort of simple like this. It's always nice to mix two styles together. You can see how I'm keeping some of the letters a bit smaller. It always looks good, always exaggerating that cross line over the letter T. So once you have your lettering like this, we will need to thicken those downstrokes. So I'm just going to start here with the first word, and make sure you don't smudge your second line here, so just be careful with your hand. It can take a bit of time to dry for these pens. You can go as thick as you like here. So you can see that I've sort of added a double stroke. You can either do it on the right side or on the left. It doesn't actually matter. I usually do it where I have more room. So this time I just wanted to do it sort of on the right here. And then just start colouring it in very carefully. I'm going to do the same for the letter R. So our downstroke for the letter R is here. I'm going to thicken it up. And I want the thickness to end sort of right in the centre of this sort of like a new shape here. So if I was going to half it, I would like this half to be thick and this half to be thin. So literally just at the bottom in the centre, you want the transition from thick to thin. And against the letter I. And just keep going for all of your letters. Thicken them up. You can see that it starts to look a bit more like calligraphy. I'm going to leave this as it is, and I'm just going to do some chunky strokes here for the next word. So it's good to practice on paper first. Pick your phrase. Practice it a few times until you feel comfortable doing it on a different surface. Okay, so that will do. So that could be one of the phrases you do. Another phrase that's really fun is just doing the word boo. Just making it quite big and chunky. I like to stylize my letter B like this. And then it's nice to add really thick downstrokes here. If you wanted, you could also just decorate the inside of your stroke. So instead of coloring it in, you could just add like stripes or little dots. I just really like this like bold effect coloring in can give you, so I'm just going to leave it as it is here. Letter B is a bit tricky when it comes to thickening up. There are a lot of downstrokes here. So again, we sort of want to transition. As soon as it starts going up, you want it to be thin. So I'm finishing my downstroke here. Take it slowly. So you can see that I have more room to the left here, so I'm just going to extend this stroke to the left rather than to the right. I'm going to do the same for this letter here as well. Only one downstroke in the letter O. As you do this, you might start running out of ink flowing from your pen. So you will need to just grab another page like this and just press it down a few times. Alright, so these are just some of the phrases you could try, just to inspire you, but also you could just letter anything, maybe somebody's name or your family name, whatever you like. And also don't forget that you can decorate your pumpkins. Adding little simple illustrations or patterns is always a lot of fun. You can always do something like a spider web, for example. Even just adding like simple polka dots. or even little crosses, or maybe even something a bit more classic looking. You can blend in a few leaves. Here are my pumpkins that have dried. I did one in white and one in pink, and you might notice that the texture is quite sort of glossy and visible, so there is a bit of a texture. If you want to go for sort of like a matte look, like matte effect on your pumpkin, I highly recommend chalk paints. So there are specific chalk paints that will create that sort of muted matte look. But I think this looks really good as well. So once you've practiced your phrase on paper, it's time to do it on your little pumpkin. So no matter what base color you painted, always try to think of contrast when you're thinking of your pen color. So obviously pink and black will look very contrasting. You could even go for white or gold on here because it'll just create a really nice soft look. I'm going to do this one in black. I think that's going to look really nice. And when you letter on your pumpkin, remember that it will be probably put somewhere in this position. So when you look at it, you want your lettering to be visible. So make sure you don't do it too low. So that's a mistake I've done before, and you just can't really read it when it's in your doorstep or in your fireplace. So try to focus sort of positioning it quite high up. It's going to be a bit challenging, so I like to hold my pumpkin. I like to balance it on my desk and just sort of hold it sideways with one hand. Again, I'm just making sure that my pen is ready. Give it a shake. Make sure you squeeze out some ink so it's ready to go. I'm just going to let's get spooky, just like we practiced on paper. And try to choose like the best side to letter on. So, you know, one side might be a bit better than other. Making sure I'm spacing my letters out. I guess just make sure that your pumpkin is well supported. You don't want to have it up in the air. You just want to sort of do it sideways and rest it on your desk. So very slowly. You might skip a few strokes and just go back very carefully, redo them. So take it much slower. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's still going to look lovely. Okay, so try not to hold your breath. So once you do this, let it dry a little bit. So I've actually smudged a few by going into quickly and starting to do for calligraphy. So let this dry. You don't want to smudge this as it might be wet still. Just give it a few seconds. So I'm just trying to be very careful here. I'm starting to thicken up every downstroke, just like we practiced before, but this time I'm just going much slower. Try not to press down too hard because you can actually peel away your paint. So if that happens, just have a little tissue next to you to wipe the tip of your pen before you carry on. Very gently. You don't want to apply much pressure at all here. So again, if anything catches in your pen, just wipe it with a tissue. So obviously it's not going to look as perfect as on paper, but it doesn't have to, because obviously it's much harder to letter on such a textured surface. So just try your best and see what happens. And just to quickly mention, if you're planning on putting your pumpkins outdoors, let's say on your doorstep, so obviously when it rains, you might be worried that they will get damaged. So what I highly recommend is using some sort of a spray, like a protective finish spray, to seal your paint and lettering so it lasts a bit longer. There are lots of different ones. I will add a link to this just so you have it if you want to try it. And there we go. Thank you so much guys for watching this. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to share your projects, I would love to see your creations in our Facebook group. Thanks so much and happy lettering.